Hey guys, welcome to Pastry Living. This is Aya. Today let's make red velvet cake. It's perfectly soft and moist, and the process is so simple. Let's get started. First, as a preparation, coat a thin layer of butter on the bottom of the pan and attach parchment paper as a cake liner. In a bowl, add all the dry ingredients, which is all-purpose flour, baking soda, baking powder, salt, cocoa powder, and granulated sugar, and whisk them together until well combined, and set it aside. In a separate bowl, add wet ingredients, which is eggs, oil. Today I use olive oil, but you can use either regular oil, hot milk, white vinegar. Milk and vinegar does a perfect job to replace buttermilk, which is often used to make red velvet cake, vanilla extract, and red food coloring. I'm going to apply a little bit of oil on the teaspoon so that it comes off easily. I used gel paste coloring instead of the liquid one to create a much brighter color, and whisk them all together until well combined, and add the dry ingredients and mix until very smooth. So this cake is so easy, you just have to keep mixing with the whisk. If you want, you can also make it with a stand mixer with a paddle attachment. Looking good, nice and smooth. And finally, in a small pot, add milk and butter and heat them at medium heat until the milk starts simmering very gently. Pay close attention to it to prevent the milk from overflowing, and mix it sometimes to make the temperature even. Now we can see it's gently simmering, so remove from the heat and add about 1/3 to half of the liquid into the cake batter. Mix gently in the beginning so that it's not gonna spill everywhere. Mix until well combined and add the remaining liquid. So oftentimes I like to add hot liquid into oil-based cake batter, especially when it contains chocolate, because I feel the texture gets a little bit more fine, the cake gets cooked slightly more evenly, and overall it tastes a little bit better. Now at the very end, scrape off the side and bottom of the bowl to ensure everything is evenly incorporated. Pour that into the prepared pans. And bake at the preheated oven until the top bounces back gently when you touch it and a toothpick comes out clean with a few crumbs when inserting it in the very center. Now the cake is very soft while it's hot, so set it aside until it cools down completely. And once cooled, detach the side using a small cake spatula. Flip, take off the pan, and flip it back. And this is optional, but you can trim the top like this to make it more even. And today we're gonna use the crumb to decorate the cakes. So I'm gonna bake it at 300 Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes until it gets dried. Take it out 1 or 2 times on the way to ensure it's evenly cooked, and crush them into smaller pieces each time. You can also bake cupcakes with it. 1 batch of the recipe is enough for 2 dozen cupcakes. This time I made a half batch for a dozen cupcakes. And now let's make the frosting to finish the cake. So this is the cream cheese frosting recipe I shared in the past. I use this one for all kinds of desserts and cakes. And today I made the double amount of the original recipe to frost the 1 8-inch cake. Whip soft butter, powdered sugar, and salt at medium to medium-high speed until it gets very fluffy for about 5 minutes. And add cold cream cheese left at room temperature for about 15 minutes. Whip it at high speed until evenly combined. Using cold cream cheese is the key to make a stiffer frosting. And whip even more to make fluffier frosting. Today I whipped another few minutes. If you want even stiffer cream cheese frosting, simply double the amount of butter. And I am sharing more about it in this tutorial comparing the two frosting, so check it out if you are interested. Drop a big scoop of the frosting and spread it to make it flat. Place the second layer on top. Drop another big scoop of frosting and spread it all over the surface evenly. And this is the crumb coat, so it doesn't have to be thick, it can be very thin. You just want to seal all the cake and the cake crumbs so that they are not gonna come out while you are doing the final coat. And if you feel the frosting is getting a little bit softer to finish the final coat, and then you can chill it in the fridge for some time and come back to make the frosting firmer. And of course, you can finish the final coat and the decoration in any way you like. Today I made a little bit rustic look using a cake spatula, so it's something you can try when you don't want to use a piping bag and the tip. And if you need to, chill the cake in the fridge for some time before you try the decoration on top of the cake to prevent the frosting on the corner from getting squished with the pressure. And finally, the cake is done. This red velvet cake is so soft, moist, and not overly sweet. And with the cream cheese frosting, it tastes exceptional. I hope you give it a try, and if you did, please let me know about how it turned out. Wrap the surface tightly and store in the fridge. The cake stays really moist and soft even in the fridge, but I feel it's a little bit fluffier at room temperature. So leave it at room temperature for some time if you want to enjoy the texture. You can enjoy this red velvet cake in many shapes and sizes, like sheet cake, cupcakes, or smaller cakes. Half batch of this recipe makes about 6-inch cake or a dozen cupcakes. Just adjust the baking time accordingly. When I first saw red velvet cake at the grocery store, I was a little bit intimidated with the look, with the bright red color. But after a while, I had it at the bakery store and I was very pleasantly surprised with how delicious it was. So never judge cakes with first impressions sometimes. But this one, definitely the best one I've ever had. It is so soft, fluffy, and perfectly moist. Even if you're not a big fan of red velvet cake, I would love you to try this one. And if you did, please let me know about how it turned out and how you enjoyed it with your family and friends. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy pastry ribbon, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.